March 10, 2019. The morning sun cast its first light on Addis Ababa Bole International Airport. On the runway stood a brand-new Boeing 737 MAX 8, preparing for Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. Its destination, Nairobi, Kenya. On board were 157 souls, passengers and crew from 35 different countries. Some were diplomats, others were tourists, aid workers, students. Each had a purpose. Each had a destination. At 8:38 a.m., the aircraft lifted into the sky. It was supposed to be a routine flight. But 6 minutes later, the aircraft vanished from radar. What followed was one of the darkest moments in modern aviation history.
Witnesses near the town of Bishoftu, southeast of Addis Ababa, described a terrifying sound, a low roar followed by an explosion that shook the ground. The plane had slammed into the earth at over 700 miles per hour, creating a crater 30 feet deep. There were no survivors. Scattered across the blackened field were charred remnants of passports, twisted fuselage, and the echoing silence of lives lost in an instant. It was the second crash of a Boeing 737 MAX 8 in less than 5 months. The questions came quickly. The answers came with devastating consequences.
In October 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 had crashed into the Java Sea, killing all 189 on board. The cause had not yet fully faded from public memory, nor had the doubts about the aircraft model. Now, with Ethiopian 302, the similarities were impossible to ignore. Both flights experienced erratic altitude changes moments after takeoff. Both struggled to climb. Both ended in disaster just minutes into flight. It wasn't just coincidence. It was systemic.
At the center of the storm was a piece of software, MCAS, short for Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. MCAS was designed to prevent the aircraft from stalling by pushing the nose downward if it sensed a steep angle of attack. But the system relied on a single sensor, and if that sensor gave incorrect data, MCAS could force the plane into a deadly dive. In both crashes, MCAS was activated by faulty sensor readings, and it overpowered the pilots. Worse still, most pilots hadn't even been trained on MCAS. It wasn't included in the manual. Boeing had downplayed its presence to speed up certification and avoid costly simulator training. The result? Confusion in the cockpit. Desperate attempts to pull the nose up. Systems fighting the pilots. And 2 doomed aircraft.
The reaction was swift and global. Within days, countries around the world grounded all Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. One by one, airspaces closed. Governments demanded answers. Airlines halted flights. The United States, initially resistant, eventually followed suit. The once celebrated 737 MAX became a symbol of corporate failure, rushed engineering, and regulatory oversight gone terribly wrong. Boeing's reputation was shattered. The company lost billions. Executives were summoned to testify before Congress. Families of the victims demanded justice and truth.
Behind the headlines were human stories. A young humanitarian worker on her first field assignment. A family traveling to a wedding. A UN official on his way to an environmental summit. Children. Teachers. Newlyweds. One woman had just texted her husband, "On the plane now." Love you." Minutes later, she was gone. These weren't just passengers. They were dreams, hopes, futures, erased in a moment. Memorials were held in dozens of countries. The grief was universal.
After nearly 2 years of investigation, re-engineering, and regulatory pressure, the 737 MAX was cleared to return to the skies. Boeing redesigned the MCAS system, added redundancy, improved pilot training, and launched a massive public relations campaign. But trust isn't built with updates. It's earned through accountability. For many families, the pain remains raw. The lawsuits continue. The scars are permanent. The Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crash became a case study, not just in aviation failure, but in what happens when speed, profit, and competition outweigh safety.
Flight 302 wasn't lost to weather. Not to sabotage. Not to pilot error. It was lost to decisions made far from the cockpit, in boardrooms, in spreadsheets, in the silence between engineers who knew something was wrong but were ignored. This wasn't fate. It was preventable. And that truth is the heaviest burden of all.